Welcome back to another Eagle podcast. Today with us we have a former presidential-elect Shuri from the Ubuntu Party. Today she's going to explain to us her key ideas and opinions and how we should handle our country. We're going to get this rolling by me asking her a couple questions. So, Shuri, I've seen you've been traveling a lot and doing a lot of things for your campaign. How do you think this is going to help your presidential campaign, and what exactly have you been doing around our country lately?
Good morning. Yes, to reiterate, I am the primary candidate for the Ubuntu Party, and today I'm really happy to talk to you about what my plans for this campaign and even hopefully what this country are. To start off, campaigning is naturally important to any presidential candidate if they want to get their name out there and they want to get people to familiarize themselves with them. And recently, I've been campaigning in low-waging areas and universities simply because I want these people who have the potential to vote for me to know who I am and what I stand for. College students in general seem to be more democratic and liberal in a lot of things they believe and want to see. And my party isn't a democratic party. It's a almost humanitarian and even egalitarian party. And I feel like a lot of the people would agree with the motives and beliefs of my party. And as I campaign to them, I want them to see how I am a person for them. And I don't want to push a certain political agenda as much as I want to push what can help our nation.
I really like a lot of things that you just said. However, do you think having a campaign party with such a large range of ideologies can cause ideas to overlap and even contradict one another?
To start off with, I believe it's possible for a party to have conflicting ideologies or beliefs, and you can see it sometimes in certain parties. But to specify, my party in general, I don't see any conflicting ideologies or beliefs, and that's simply because my party stands for one important goal, and that's the betterment of society, the betterment of humanity. And to go against that would really weaken my own party. And so, in becoming a member of this party, I had to make sure that everything this party stood for resonated with me, who I was, and I also had to make sure it made sense. I want to better this country in a plethora of ways, as I'm sure every candidate really does. To begin with, I want to introduce more policies and funding for the education system, elementary to high school, but I also want to work with college students to make after high school education more affordable, simply because I know what it's like to have the endless will to learn, and I can't imagine not having the proper means to continue one's education. I want to introduce more policies to help the environment, as there's only one Earth, and taking care of it to preserve all life on this Earth should be a goal every candidate wants to tackle. I also want to revise and reform our healthcare system to better work for the common person, because when we work for the common person, which is the majority of Americans, we ensure a better quality of life.
Do you feel that these ideologies that you have and your party have only pertain to people of the middle class and the lower class, or is the upper class or more wealthier families involved and a part of fixing the system as well?
To answer that, the goals I have would be inclusive towards all people of all classes, because everyone has a role to play in the system and everyone is impacted by the system.
Okay, and on to my next question, and I'm pretty sure it's a question that many viewers of the Eagle podcast also have in their minds, is what is exactly your poll about and what are the results from it?
So, to answer your question, when polled, about 88% of people asked agreed that our education system should be reformed to make more room for building character after elementary school and making mental health a priority for all students from elementary school to high school and hopefully beyond. Though not meant to be an open-ended poll, many people expressed their concerns about how this would be implemented. Through my potential administration, I wish to not take any funding or room from other programs in school, but instead increase funding in general in schools to allow schools to be able to support the education of all their students. Another concern shared is why is this necessary? Funding for programs like this is necessary because it allows for students to enter society with a better grasp on who they are and how they can influence their world.
Okay, and before we move on to the last section of our podcast, is there any other things about your campaign that you would like to share with the audience?
Another key issue I like to bring to light while I'm still here is healthcare. My basic stance on the issue is obviously healthcare needs to be more affordable and available to the general public. Placing caps on drug prices is a very important issue that this campaign hopes to tackle. Since 1996, three big insulin manufacturers have increased the list price of insulin in lockstep by 1,123%. And the ADA reports that it's not possible to pinpoint any specific reason for this surge in prices. This right here is the very problem, in the sense that big companies are able, and big healthcare companies are able to price up their insulin and other medical needs as much as they wish, and the general public will always have to pay for it because it's what they need to survive. It's already known that people die from rationing insulin, and this is an epidemic that only grows by days, so it makes sense for us to try to tackle this problem head on and allow people better access to quality and more affordable healthcare. The average cost for insulin can run from $120 to $400 a month, and that's just on the lower scale, and sometimes it goes over $450 a month. So making healthcare more affordable and placing caps on drug prices is a major issue that our campaign hopes to tackle. Another key issue that this campaign helps raise awareness for and end is the discourse on our environment and how we preserve it. This campaign fully agrees on the Green New Deal proposed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and there's a lot of questions on how this would be implemented and how just this one bill has the potential to impact our environment. And one plan out of the many that my campaign hopes to implement is taking the profitability out of fossil fuels, and to do so gradually. We believe in nationalizing fossil fuels and the industry, and with that we can use the money to support government initiative of slowing down the effects of carbon on the planet, and even allowing people to buy more eco-friendly cars. We need to exploit American industry as they are American industry and keep them here. And that's just one plan we have for tackling the inevitable problem that is our climate, and how we want to save it and preserve it.
Okay, and just to start to wrap things up, because I know you're a busy woman these days, what is your other opinion on the other former candidates?
To begin with, I respect all candidates wholeheartedly and do agree with a lot of the policies they wish to implement, but there are some areas where our opinions do differ on how policies should be implemented and what we should do. For example, one candidate who I do have slightly disagreeing views on would be the views of Guru, specifically on his healthcare and drug policy, and that's because those who are obtaining illegal drugs to give themselves illegal highs are presented with a relatively punitive form of justice, and I don't believe that helps anyone. People who are addicted to drugs and depend on drugs should be granted with ways in which they can learn how to not depend on those drugs through a more rehabilitational justice system. And so punishing those who are addicted to drugs so harshly is really punishing them for a crime, in most cases, that doesn't have a victim other than themselves. And so helping these people to not depend on these drugs in a more rehabilitational justice system does more good than just punishing them. Another candidate whose views I disagree with would be Nick Fury. He has generally more pro-life views on abortion, which are relatively opposite of my views. And while I don't believe they wish to deny women abortion so strictly and make things like that federal law reversing Roe v. Wade, I do believe their potential administration would be more lenient towards states like Georgia, who have actively gone against the ruling. I believe people have the right to bodily autonomy, and to infringe upon that to a pregnant person is not acceptable.
Thank you again for coming out and talking with us. Unfortunately, this is all we have time for today. However, make sure you stay tuned to the Eco Podcast for more updates on the election. Again, this is Shuri from the Ubuntu Party, and make sure you go out and vote, vote, vote.